Welcome everybody to the May 6, 2026 Garrison Board of Education regular workshop meeting and public budget hearing. Dusty, will you please call the roll?
Jocelyn Apicello.
She'll be here in a minute.
Eric Arnold.
Here.
Jennifer Harrington-Wilson.
Excused.
Dan Jasnow.
Here.
Peter Lester.
Here.
Kent Schott.
Here.
Sarah Tormey. Here.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jocelyn.
Sorry.
No worries. Do we have any changes to the agenda for tonight? Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the agenda as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Superintendent's report.
Thank you. We have a lot to go over this evening, so I'm going to make my remarks very brief but very important. As many of you may or may not know, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. I see some of our staff members here. Yay. You know, I've been in a lot of districts, and I'm not just going to serve up a bunch of platitudes. I really mean this. We have a special group of educators who are caring and committed, and they know every child in ways that I don't think you can do in any place else other than Garrison. They are responsive. They are always student-centered, and they foster a sense of belonging and confidence in our students every day. It is rare to see a kid come to school upset. Like rare. And I'm out at most arrivals and dismissals, and they're not even leaving upset. And the one or two that are, it's usually about interpersonal relationship stuff, and it's not about school. And even when school is hard for some kids, they never give up, and it's because of the culture that our teachers provide every single day in these, within these four walls and outside of them as well. And so I want to take a moment, and if you can, if you're listening, and take a moment and recognize the teacher this week. And just thank them for all the hard work that they do. And I also want to take a moment to thank the PTA. They're providing food this week, a luncheon tomorrow for our staff. Some other families have brought in some goodies, and it's just a small token of our appreciation for them. So thank you, teachers, GUFS teachers. You are what makes us special. And since she's in the house this evening, who actually happens to be here, today is National School Nurse Day. And Nurse Melissa is here. Let's give her a round of applause. I've supervised nursing departments probably about 15 years now. And I can tell you, Nurse Melissa is one of a kind. From drop-off to pick-up, everything in between, from scraped knees to helping open a milk carton, Nurse Melissa is there. We are so lucky to have her to keep our students and our faculty safe, and she is the foundation building block of the culture that I talked about. So thank you, Nurse Melissa, for all the wonderful things you do each and every day. We truly appreciate you. Speaking of celebrations and celebrating, let's celebrate the GUFS community for our climate summit. I'm going to say it again and again until we have it. Friday, May 29th from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. is a celebration. After we are done with a wonderful climate summit, and you'll hear a little bit about environmental ed this evening in a presentation, but the day is a day of learning for our kids and for our fellow districts that are coming in and learning with us and presenting. But we will also want to make sure our community can come here and celebrate with us and celebrate the hard work that the students have done, that the teachers have done, and come peruse some student projects. We will have some food available for purchase, and I hope to really have a huge turnout for this because it is something. The Youth Climate Summit is one piece of our environmental ed, but it's really a performance assessment of what we do. And so if you want to come and celebrate the hard work of our students, all community members are welcome to that evening. And lastly, we've been working really hard, and I want to thank Mike McDonald for keeping us honest with our social media presence, but we really do share a lot on social media. So for those of you who do not follow us, who are out there watching on YouTube, please follow us. A lot of great information comes. You can catch the latest student podcast, Build the Positivity, that just got released as well, out on our social media platforms. This will allow you to keep up to date on our school happenings and keep connected with the Guffs community. Even families that are living in the community members that don't have students at Guffs, follow us. We do some really great things, and I think it's something that our community and our staff and our students should be proud of. Speaking of proud of, I always give an update on what's happening at Guffs. I'm going to make a shameless plug. Our kids are really excited. I think it's an hour and 45 minutes, so get comfortable. We have a lot of students that want to present at our talent show. And so tomorrow night, Thursday, May 7th, from 7 p.m., please join us for the student-led talent show. It's going to be amazing. I just know it because the kids are so excited about it. So please join us. Also, May is Mental Awareness Month, Mental Health Awareness Month. And there's a lot we do at Guffs for mental health and social well-being, and I just want to mention it that it's something we take very seriously here. Just a reminder, May 19th is the budget vote and elections, Board of Education elections. There are a lot of things happening that day too in the building, kindergarten orientation, rising kindergarten orientation, pre-K orientation. We have a blood drive, and we have middle school orientation for students entering in 6th grade. And May 29th, as I already talked about. And lastly, and I'll remind you every meeting until we get to this point, so nobody doesn't send their kid in, the first day of school is September 1st. It does not happen after Labor Day, it's prior to Labor Day. And that concludes my superintendent's report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for Dr. Stoll? Great. I also just want to echo, our happy Teacher Appreciation Week, happy Nurses Day. Obviously, a week and a day, respectively, are not nearly adequate, I think, to express our appreciation for everything that the teachers and Nurse Melissa do for this district. And, I think also especially, obviously we're a very small district and, small community. And because of that, each one of our teachers makes such an enormous impact, I think, on the culture in this building, the community. And so we are incredibly grateful for the culture that has been built in this building within the district, and that the teachers and our great staff and nurse sustain every day. And as those of us who are fortunate enough to be parents of kids in this district, it's something that we see every day. And so even though we are, a week is not enough, but I hope that you all know that we do appreciate you tremendously and everything that you guys do in this building. All right, we will move right along to our first board communication presentation, which is our 5-year environmental education plan. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, do I need to read this now?
Do you want to do that after?
Yeah, sure. Do the resolution after.
Yeah, then we can ask questions
Okay.
and make sure you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. I will turn it over then.
I'm going to start and speak very little during this presentation, which will be hard for me, but I will do it. I'm really excited about this. One of the things when I came into the district, I was really impressed by our environmental education program. And I asked one simple question. I says, where do we go from here? What's the plan? We didn't really have one. We had some great ideas, some things. We had a vision of what we wanted to accomplish or where we wanted to be, but we didn't have a roadmap about how we would take that journey. So I need to thank, and Mike will tell you all the committee members, but I need to thank, first of all, this board for the support of doing this work. We appreciate it. Ms. Picola, the engine that drives this plan, and Mike McDonald helping to make sure that it's coherent and really is aligned vertically, horizontally, and is cross-disciplinary. So I'm going to kick it over to them. Just want to thank the both of you for the hard work that happened in between committee meetings. This is an incredible lift. This is a very, very, very ambitious thing to undertake, to design a 5-year plan in one school year. Most districts would take a couple years to study this. And something like this would take multiple school years. So thank you for that work, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Krista.
So, thank you. Today we're going to start by talking about the core components and give you a little overview of what went into the planning and the background to our thought process for actually creating goals and benchmarks for our 5-year plan. And we are going to pause and talk about some of our out of traditional classroom space and what that learning could look like for students. So let's dive in.
So first, we just want to thank every member of our committee. So they're mentioned here. Thank you, Ms. Tormey, for joining us. Our administrative team was a part of this. We had 2 teacher representatives, a parent representative, and actually a student representative that spoke on behalf of the student body after a focus group and survey process to cultivate some student voice as a part of this plan as well. We engaged in 4 different sessions, and we took a look at not only our vision of a graduate, but also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the pillars associated with our Green Ribbon Award that Gus received back in 2024, in order to put together a robust plan that's built on a framework of core components and focus areas that we're going to talk about in just a moment, and how that filters into some of the actions that we're going to take over the next 5 years to accomplish that vision that Greg was referencing.
So during our conversations envisioning where Garrison would be by 2031, several foundational themes consistently emerged. And these ideas became the guiding pillar of our environmental education plan, and were organized in 2 categories: core components and focus areas. These served as the guiding matrix for our planning when shaping our priorities and long-term goals. So at the core, our committee envisioned learning that was authentic, connected, and meaningful, not isolated in one subject area. Students would apply their knowledge across disciplines and through real-world problem-solving, collaboration, research, communication, and hands-on experiences in our improved interdisciplinary curriculum. We also found it important to utilize the unique opportunities the Hudson Valley offers our students by connecting them to passionate local experts, organizations, environmental leaders, and peer student groups. By strengthening our community partnerships, we can expand learning beyond the classroom and deepen students' understanding of their role within the community. Finally, students should be prepared for the ever-changing future that lies ahead, which is why we must also include opportunities for outdoor education, field-based investigations, STEAM learning, and authentic environmental action projects, putting students in the driver's seat. Together, these focus areas and core components help set the stage for the goals and priorities outlined in our 5-year plan.
So the plan is long, it's like 22 pages long, okay? But it's very readable, I promise. So we're gonna actually go through how to navigate the plan a little bit so that you realize just how readable of a document it actually is. So the core components and the focus areas that Mrs. Bucola just mentioned helped us as a committee come up with 4 concrete goals that we would be able to try to achieve by 2031. And so I won't read the goals to you, but I am going to point out some phrases that jump out from each of the goals just so you kind of realize the pieces that we're going to be talking about associated with each of these goals, because they are fairly distinct. So for goal number 1, we're mostly talking about curriculum work here. And so the goal in the next 5 years is to establish an environmental education framework developed around sustainable practices that could be used to support our team in building these ideas and meaningful connections across disciplines in our curriculum mapping process throughout the school. For goal number 2, we are exploring and designing solutions as environmental stewards and out of traditional classroom learning experiences. And so primarily this is for our students to participate in valuable learning experiences outside of the 4 walls of their traditional classroom. And that could be in a variety of different spaces, the proposed forest classroom, the STEAM makerspace that's in development, our pollinator garden, field trips, courtyards, different things that we have accessible to us. For goal number 3, it's really 2 pieces. One is to invite the community in to learn with us, but also to have students drive that process of the learning. So it's not our team educating the community, but really our students taking on those leadership responsibilities and learning with and from each other and supporting the community with that education as well. And then goal number 4 is really about STEAM competencies and innovative thinking and experiences for our students through some GUF-specific language that we're going to develop around a design process. So how students engage in design thinking and then build build things that solve authentic problems throughout our school. From there, each goal is then broken down into 5-year benchmarks. And so an example of one of those benchmarks for goal number 2 would be that all students will engage in multiple outdoor learning experiences, leveraging resources from the district's out of traditional classroom learning asset map. So some of this language might seem unfamiliar because they're things that are a part of the plan that we're going to develop, like this asset map. And so that 5-year benchmark is an ambitious thing to accomplish as part of the goal. And so the next piece that you would have to read in order to navigate this plan would then be the action steps that are associated with that 5-year benchmark. And so in order to accomplish this 5-year benchmark, 2 example action steps would be that we're going to engage in curriculum mapping in grades pre-K to 2 that will outline project-based outdoor learning experiences. So explicitly in our curriculum, we're going to outline project ideas and different things to get students into these authentic experiences, so it's planned for, and that we can plan around those things. And so you'll notice that I think Mrs. Bucola and I, something we have in common is that sometimes we try to do too much all at once. And so part of this plan was really thinking about how we use the 5 years appropriately to make the work manageable. And so you'll notice how some things are only happening in certain grades at certain times because it would be incredibly difficult and, depending on the task, really impossible to do pre-K through 8 in 1 year. And so thinking about how that work can be spaced out so that it's manageable for the staff that's working on it, and we can be really intentional and dive deep in a meaningful way. You'll also notice that even though the plan is 22 pages long, that there are 2 views of the 5-year plan. And so the first view is broken down by goal, where it has the goal, the 5-year benchmarks, and then the associated action steps. The second part of the plan is the same information, so you don't have to read it twice, but it is just broken down by year instead. And so that makes it really actionable for us as a staff in implementing this, not having to comb through the plan and find what's happening in year one. It's already organized in that fashion, so it makes it more accessible for us in order to implement it starting in year one. I'm gonna turn it over to Greg for a moment.
Yeah, just again, I think one of the things is really important in terms of one of our goals is that really out of traditional classroom learning experiences. And as we've talked about multiple times, one of the pieces this plan is built around, hopefully if the budget passes and we get to build our immersive outdoor classroom, it's really important that that becomes a real major component of our 5-year plan. So I just want to reiterate about the outdoor classroom. It is not a vanity project. It's not a nice to have. It is something that's linked to this plan. And I think one of the things to understand as educators, we know that within our 4 walls, if we told kids and told families, like, your kids can come to school, they can come into my classroom, but they can't sit, they have nothing to put their stuff in, they can't write, the teacher has to carry all their materials, oh, and by the way, there's no bathroom for you to use, I'd be run out of town, right? Like, learning cannot happen without those things. And so right now, the forest is a place we visit to collect data, to do observations, but it's not really a place that we can have deeper learning for extended periods of time. This classroom affords us to do those things as part of the 5-year plan. It also allows accessibility for all, so that students with motoric impairments, or adults even with motoric impairments, can access it through an ADA accessible pathway. It allows our community members, maybe with strollers, things of that nature, to kind of use it as well. And so it also is accessibility for our whole community. It gives us predictable learning conditions. If it's wet and soggy, and we have no place to sit, no place to put our stuff down, we don't go to the forest that way. A place with shelter and covered and proper drainage will allow us to use them. Even if it just rained the day before, we can still get out there. And it allows us to increase our frequency of use just by extending the seasons too, the shoulder seasons of when we can and can't use it. So, one of the things we like to do is, if you want to learn more, please, contact me. We can set up a meeting. Our kids talked about it too with Miss Bucola in our Spill the Positivity podcast, so you can watch that podcast. And Ms. Bucola really spoke about it. Lila from 8th grade asked a wonderful question about, like, what about the classroom? If you want to hear it kind of like from a kid and an adult talking about it, please watch the Positivity podcast and to learn more. And otherwise, just contact me. We're happy to talk more about this project.
This is my favorite part. So we have really been thinking about curriculum since I came on, and thinking about project-based and problem-based learning for our students, and that is happening across grades. But our next step is really to take this to make it inter-content, right? So that we are not just thinking about one focus of environmental science, it's how these things go together. So we have a couple shifts of envisioning what we hope to accomplish within the next 5 years. And so one can be seen looking here at kindergarten. So through the use of outdoor classroom and our forest learning spaces, early elementary can kind of transform a traditional classroom-based animals unit into an immersive wildlife investigation where students actively search for animal evidence and they make observations. They can build hypotheses and design ways to help protect local species. This approach naturally integrates science, literacy, art, engineering, stewardship, and collaboration through authentic experiences. At the secondary level, looking here at 7th grade, they really get to engage deeper in this interdisciplinary investigations. And so if we look at a 7th grade leaf chromatography lesson, it currently exists, and it includes a forest walk. It includes a classroom lab, but we can expand that to actually doing like a full day forest field study. So students would investigate tree species and environmental conditions. They would collect and analyze leaf samples. They could conduct the chromatography experiments in the forest. They would interpret the data, write claim, evidence, reasoning, scientific explanations, examine how the environmental factors influence the pigment changes, and then actually create artwork using the pigments that they've created. Through this experience, students connect science, writing, data analysis, environmental literacy, and the arts within one cohesive learning experience. It's these type of experiences that represent the direction that we hope to continue growing towards, where learning is connected, student-centered, and grounded in authentic experiences that extend beyond our traditional classrooms. Through this work, we aim to create meaningful opportunities that strengthen both academic learning and student connection to their community and the environment.
So ultimately, you'll notice in what Mrs. Buchel has outlined that the plan was crafted with the potential for an outdoor classroom in mind. And so looking at these learning experiences that Mrs. Buchel is describing, a big factor of that is having the accessibility of an outdoor classroom. And so what opportunities that would afford us across all grade levels in our school. And so our next steps ultimately is we are seeking board and community support through adoption of this plan, and then the vote for the budget for next school year, which incorporates elements that we've planned for within our 5-year plan. We would then engage our staff in some professional learning around certain aspects of this plan and what work would be entailed over the next 5 years and where we're moving as a team. We'd engage in some curriculum auditing and mapping associated with the different 5-year benchmarks and action steps outlined in the plan. And then ultimately the purpose of having a plan like this in the first place is to be able to communicate transparently and then document our progress as we go, so that annually and then by the end of the 5 years we can communicate very transparently about which goals we were able to accomplish and where we're headed next. Thank you for your time, and thank you for my co-presenters. Are there any questions for any of us?
I just first want to say thank you to you guys. This is, it's clearly a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous work product. So thank you to you guys. Thank you to everybody that was a part of this effort. Sarah, everybody else from the community who served on this. The 5-year environmental task force. It really, it's an incredible work product. I hope that members of the community will really. Will this be available on our website?
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope people will take a look at it, dig into it. Look at the different ways you can look at the map and explore the whole thing. So thank you to you guys. It really is an incredible effort. And I was wondering if you could also speak a little bit to some of the research that goes into this. So obviously, you hear about environmental education. I think maybe folks that are tuning into this don't appreciate, how much this is about also not just the environmental component, but also the project-based learning, the STEAM lab elements, these, finding ways to incorporate, research-backed ways of learning that, that we know engage kids better, that help them achieve certain academic outcomes or deepen their understanding of particular subjects. So could you talk about sort of the, that, I don't know if it's cross-disciplinary, but the way that we are sort of pulling from these various domains in order to help bolster this project and student achievement, writ large?
Absolutely. I think one thing that our team is working really hard to accomplish is basically aligning a lot of the different plans and things we're working towards so that they operate together. And so one of the things that we're also developing is our district's professional learning plan, and districts have strategic plans, and in a lot of districts that I've seen, sometimes these documents are not necessarily aligned and working towards the same thing and accomplishing the same goal. And so we've been working really hard to make sure that the professional learning that we engage teachers in, the things that we talk about that are research-based and research-backed are also aligned to the learning opportunities that we're outlining for students when we curriculum map and when we engage in these things. And so to speak about very specific research elements would be very difficult, and unless we had all night, we could dive really deep into that. But everything that we put into this plan is things that we believe in, are instructionally sound, and are research-backed 100%.
Great. Other questions or comments?
I just had one question. You mentioned the student voice and as being an important part of putting this all together, which is super impressive, I have to say. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how the student voice was gathered and incorporated?
Yeah, so I've been working with a group of green team members from 2nd through 8th grade. And so one of the tasks that we took on is we sat down and met and we discussed, like, what does it mean to be involved in a STEM field? What does it mean to be, to care about our environment? And so we sat down and we kind of made a list of things that they knew. And then from there, we were able to develop a little further, like, all right, so what do you personally care about? What is important to you? And so they started creating a list. The littles were able to actually tell us, like, well, how do they envision themselves being in a STEM profession in the future, and drew us little pictures. But we really were able to sit down and start thinking, because one of the problems I've had when I've communicated with students is they understand the big picture, but when you ask them, like, what are we missing? They can't really fill in the blank because they don't necessarily know what they're missing. They know how amazing it is here and everything they have. So through outlining it and through small group discussions with each grade, I was able to elicit some responses.
And that, just to add to that, and then Ella Conley, who is a student on our committee, she was able to, like, synthesize all of the findings that the green team had with Ms. Bucola and eloquently tell us as a committee, like, what is it that our students are interested in? What would engage them in this type of learning, and what should we be thinking about when we build this plan? So we couldn't bring every kid into this committee; we would take them out of class, right? But we found a way to get student voice absolutely in this plan.
And one additional element that I'll add, and something that we used in our planning, but I hope to incorporate more as we move throughout the 5 years of this plan, is Dr. Stowell was able to coordinate visits with our 3 partner districts to speak with alumni that have graduated from GUFS. And so that was really insightful conversation to not only hear from our current students, but then students that have moved on, and see as they look back, was there something that they wish they had that maybe they did not have in the context of environmental education. So the more we engage in those types of conversations, the more information we'll have to be able to develop plans like this in the future and even refine this one.
Can I ask another question? Sorry.
No, go.
I'm just kind of curious. Are we drawing from other districts' experience doing this kind of thing, or are we it? I mean, either nationwide or locally.
We are it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm just curious. Yeah.
I will say that a lot of districts have plans like this in a variety of contexts. I can't say that I can point to a single district that has a 5-year environmental education focused plan like ours. Ours is truly unique.
Yeah, I'll just add to it. A lot of districts maybe have some curriculum maps, coursework around environmental education or sustainability, but and you know, it isn't the centerpiece of what they do. It's more like an add-on to their program. This environmental education is really the centerpiece, and things kind of bloom out from it. So when we say we're it, we're probably one of the few districts that kind of put all their chips in on this and know that it'll pay dividends.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process, because I think it was a really fantastic process to be a part of. As somebody who has avoided all committees having to do with planning or strategy or curriculum for 6 years now, I really enjoyed this, and I was not expecting that when I went into it. And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed was how accessible it was. And I think we spoke about that at the end. The parent representative who was on it as well, Tim, I think it can be nerve-wracking for community members who think that, oh, I don't know anything about this. Can I join? Will my voice be helpful? And kudos to both of you. You really made that process feel like, oh, anybody can be a part of this if you care about this community. And then also in terms of this, what we ended up putting together, the thing I'm most excited about is how focused we can be now. I think we, as Garrison, outside of the school building itself and district, have so many environmental resources and so many elements of our community that are very connected and committed to the environment that it can be almost overwhelming to throw out an idea of, oh, we could work with this person, we could work with that person, we could bring in this, that sometimes nothing happens in those environments where there's just so much. And how is it connected to the curriculum? Are we still thinking about reading and writing while we're doing this? So that wonderful activity with my favorite thing, the Post-its, where we wrote everything out on Post-its, threw it down, and we're like, oh, a lot of this overlaps.
Yeah.
So we actually don't need to be going in these 6 different directions. We can hone it down. I thought that was really helpful in terms of keeping us, moving in one direction. And I hope as we move forward, as we've done with the other strategic plan, the larger overreaching strategic plan, that when people ask, well, what are you doing? We have something to point to, and they will take the time to read this because it is all there. My other favorite things, if you dive in and read through it, I think there's a lot of references, especially in the later grades, to leadership opportunities, which I think is really important for those students, whether they're on a green team or they're finding other ways to become leaders in their community. I love how it's spelled out specifically, like by this year, students are expected to have a leadership role. By this year, students are expected to take on 2 leadership roles. Those leadership roles can look like X, Y, and Z. So I'd encourage everyone to sort of dig in and see that. I thought that was really helpful. And then I'll just end on, I think from what I've been reading, I don't know if other board members have seen, there is a real push right now for moving away from our lovely Chromebooks, and are we too tied to tech? I feel like we're almost a little ahead of the curve with a strong plan to really involve that deep learning outside the traditional classroom with this. So thank you so much for your time and effort in putting this together. It was so much fun. I really loved everything from the Post-its to the pencils. It was great.
Yeah, and I think it'll be great to have this plan too for when things come up in front of the board in terms of spending money. It makes us very targeted. Okay, is it in here? And if it is, then I would think feel all much more confident to move ahead with something like the 4th classroom on a large scale, but even smaller scale.
No, I think that's right. Even every field trip
Right.
could be linked to this instead of a one-off. And it's also, you don't have 7th grade got to experience this one year, but no one else will get to. It sort of lines it up so that it's every year built in, that you get these things to look forward to, which I think is great too.
So I'm going to ask one more question. The design thinking process, which I live with every day because I'm married to a designer, I'm just wondering how that's going to be developed, because design thinking for a pre-K-er and an 8th grader is quite different, and just what is the process going to be to find the right process, I guess, for us. And I'm just also wondering, because I did send this in email too, but there are designers who live in Garrison who I'm sure would be very interested in maybe being part of that designing the design process, and really tying it to their own expertise and schooling and real world life as designers. Just wondering if that's a resource we might be able to tap through the development of our own design process, or are we picking up something from another school, or just what is the process for that? Because I think that's a real centerpiece of making, is having a design thinking process behind it. So.
Peter, one of the things, and you were with us on these visits that we saw when we visited, let's say the maker spaces, is that, really the design process is engineering, right? It's an engineering process. And so one of the things that schools have gotten really, really good at in the last 10 years or so is designing an engineering process that is articulated throughout the different grade levels. schools, right? So I think this is something that educators are well skilled in. There's a lot of research out there about how to do this in schools. I don't, could we bring in people from the community to experience our design thinking process with us? Absolutely. Do I think our team and we have the ability to kind of create one that's very Garrison focused based upon what schools have been doing for the last 10 or 15 years? I think there's a pretty good body of research that schools know how to do this.
Good.
And so that's kind of what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the research, and then every school has a little bit different depending on like what their focus is, right? And we saw that. Every school that we visited, all 3 schools that we visited, districts we visited, they had some sort of design thinking. They looked a little bit different, but the concepts were basically the same. So I think for us, we got to unpack it with our staff, right? The educators that are going to teach this stuff, how we're going to align it in our curriculum. And if we do it and we do it well, when you see whatever design process, whether it be for the kindergarten or whether it be for an 8th grader, we're all going to be well schooled in it and know how to implement it. So, but we would, certainly once we do that, we want to celebrate it with community members. If we want to test drive it with a couple community members, that would be fun too. Have them come in our maker space when we build it and go through this design thinking process with our kids. I think that's a way to connect community and celebrate the work that we do. But it's a great point. Like, it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be fun to develop.
Thank you.
There's also, I don't know if this will help with integrating some of the parents' expertise at home to the Ask Me About. I don't know if you wanted to speak to a little bit about what that step would look like and what that means. So,
So as part of the plan, one of the action steps is documents per unit for environmental education. That's called an Ask Me About document. It's meant to be a send home to parents so that parents would be able to read that document on a unit basis and then be able to ask their child about the things that they're learning in that unit in environmental education, which would then be paired with take-home style activities that parents would be able to do with their kids to reinforce those concepts at home. So activities you could do in your yard when you're taking a walk, when you're taking a hike, whatever the case may be.
Great. Any other questions or comments from board members?
The only other thing I would ask is if you could explain, because I think this was really key when we were having discussions in our committee, the learning experience asset maps and what that really means for our educators in the building to have an asset map.
Absolutely.
It doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, it doesn't exist yet. It's one of our action steps of something that we're going to build. But ultimately, I think it goes back to your point earlier, Sarah, about when there are too many things, sometimes it can create this like paralysis of sorts of like not knowing where to begin. So the asset map idea is to basically take all of the out of traditional classroom learning experiences and spaces that we have as assets to our district and be able to outline them in a way that make them more user-friendly for the people who will be using them. And so not only what resources do we have, but then in what ways could we use them? What style of activities could we do? What types of things would you need to consider if you were to use some of these assets that we have in place? So it's basically a user's guide for how to navigate some of the assets and resources that we would have as a district that we'd have to develop in the first couple of years of our plan.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you guys again. I'm just tremendously excited to see this now move into the next phase, and I'm sure it's just going to be an incredible resource, not just for the staff, but for the students as well. So thank you again to everybody that was involved for all the work that you put into it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. All right, we are moving to we need to do the resolution. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Very good. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the 5-year environmental education plan as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Now we're moving on to the capital projects update.
cannot follow that up with anything remotely as interesting as that. Maybe an audit presentation, Sarah, would get more excited. Right. We just want to give everybody an update. We would share with the community, want to be transparent. There are a lot of capital projects going on. When we have major updates, we want to make sure we share that with the community. Phase 1, our hot water heaters, I already said they were done, but the nice part about it is we were conditionally approved for our DASNY grant, which is the gym roof, which has been in existence before I got here. And what was holding it up was this grant that would pay for half of the roof. So we've got confirmation that the grant has been approved, the money is there. The plan is now up with SED, so once the plan has been approved for SED, we can develop a bid specification or use a best value contract and award it. So our estimate, now we have a real estimate on when we're going to start the gym roof, which is really in need of repair. We could start that in the fall of 2026, and we could do it while students are there because
there's no skylights.
There's no skylights, and there's no removal of asbestos or anything like that. So as long as SED approves it, we're ready to rock and roll, and so that's good. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about phase 2, and I'll jump in with some of the not so great news on phase 3, but whether it's good or bad, we're going to share it.
Okay. So these are projects that were approved as a part of last year's budget. So that is all the masonry work. So we have masonry work of the front staircases and the sidewalk and curb. And also that includes tying in the roof drains into the catch basins in the parking lot. Those contracts have been signed, the bids were awarded. The bids, both of these projects came in under budget. So if there's any unforeseens that come up, we should be able to handle them within the budget. We're still waiting on some project documents for masonry, but because this project is dependent upon closing off the main entrances to the front of the building, we won't do that until after the regular school year is over. And then for the summer programs, we'll be using the entrance either at the by the 4th and 5th grade classrooms, or we'll be using the entrance by the gym. And then the roofing bid was also awarded in March, and if the weather cooperates, we're going to keep our fingers crossed, we're going to start this Saturday by doing the abatement over the principal's office. So that's making some good progress, and then we should be able to complete both of those projects before the end of the summer.
Just quickly on this one, Joe.
Yep.
So just to reiterate, this one, it's going to be over the summer, the masonry. We do expect it to be fairly disruptive to the front of the building. We'll have summer scholars in the building at the time. Can you talk about just the plan, to mitigate that disruption and what that's looking like?
So basically what we're going to be doing is the lower parking lot's going to be off limits. We're going to be using the upper parking lot for the students to come in and arrive, as well as our staff parking. We're going to have barriers between the construction work and obviously the students. And then if there is work on some of the retaining walls that are in the elementary courtyard or in the back by the kindergarten area, we'll obviously have those areas blocked off to prevent any students from getting there. But we should be able to maintain all of our emergency exits for egress, and shouldn't have an issue. But obviously there will be more noise than you would have in a regular school day. But I think we can move the kids around in the building to not really experience too much of it.
The other thing we're going to do, Dan, is in a project like this, when you have students around, is you have a safety meeting with your architects and your contractors and staff from here in the school, so that we have plans in order how to keep people away from those areas and make sure that we understand traffic flow and things of that nature. So probably somewhere in June, we'll have a safety meeting with Allison, myself, Joe, CPL, as well as our vendors, and kind of come up with a plan of how things are going to flow for the summer. I know it's only a half-day program, but we have ESY here for 6 weeks. We have summer scholars here for 4 weeks. So that's a pretty big chunk of time. So we really got to account for that.
Great, thank you.
Great, I get the not so good news. But let's just talk about the process for, we'll start with the immersive forest classroom. Obviously, it's dependent on whether, on our 26-27 proposed budget. If it is approved, just so everybody knows, there's going to be some work on detail, survey, and design. Then it's going to have to be submitted to SED for approval. If it eventually gets approved, there will be a bid process. So we're still projecting 2027, right? Is October or so, 2027, if everything goes perfectly. And that's a good segue to when things don't go so perfectly with SED. So as you know, we have a makerspace. It's been submitted, the plan has been submitted to SED for review. But there's some architectural concerns that have been brought to our attention, and we have to, some design concerns, and we have to kind of figure out how to get around those. And when we have a more clear idea of how to not get around those, but really address them in ways that are appropriate, that's going to be something that will give us a little bit more visibility into what is the actual timeline for this. So right now, our hope was, originally we thought we would get approval by May, which would allow us to go out to bid, get award a bid, and then we wanted to start the project over the summer. It is now May, and there are definitely some design elements that we've got to address with our architects. So it is zero possibility that we're getting it in May. If we're lucky and we address those and we get approval by June, it's not enough time to go out to bid, make sure that everything's done, because it would push us probably into the start of August, and we can't be doing heavy construction when we start September 1. So what we're thinking right now, unless some sort of miracle happens, is that this project's going to be pushed into the school year. And what that means is the heavy work that we need to do, this space is utilized a lot, so any of the heavy work would need to be done during a long break. So we'd have to think about something like a December break, doing some of the heavy work, maybe cording it off, doing some of the inside work, interior work in a way that's safe. So that would really push us out to either second and third shifts or breaks, and that would really push us out to probably spring of 2027, a realistic timeline. It's not the news I wanted to bring, but it's the reality of how these projects can either go very fast, very slow, or anywhere in between. So we're going to work with our architects, try to come up with some corrections or some adjustments to the design so that the architectural concerns that they have can be addressed.
There are two basic reviews at SED Facilities Planning. There's an engineering review, and then there's an architectural review. We got the engineering review back, and there was only 2 comments, so we thought things were looking really good, but then the architectural review came back with like 8 or 9 comments. And some of those comments are related to egress for our emergency access and everything, and that was something that we didn't expect to see. And they were also concerned about the height of the ceiling if it was going to be a makerspace. So those are things that we're going to have to work through and develop a solution with the architects to answer what their issues are. And then once we've answered those, then it will finish getting reviewed. The project could then go out to bid, but typically when you go out to bid, you have the bid on the street for like a month. Once the bid is awarded, then the contractor has to do submittals. They have to tell the architect all the different things they're going to use before they can order them. And there's a lead time associated with those. And if we're going to do doors on the front of this, the doors and wall systems have lead times associated with them, which would put us out of the summer.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. But as we get more information, we're going to keep reporting back, and we'll probably be every meeting between now and I don't know, the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
We're going to have capital project updates all the time.
Yeah.
Because obviously every meeting in the summer, there's gonna be plenty of activity, but we're gonna continue doing all this work all year round. And the good thing about the forest, if that goes, obviously, we can do work there whenever the weather permits. So, you know, that will go as fast as the weather will allow us and SED will allow us to go.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions from board members? Appreciate the update. I find these facilities updates very useful. Obviously, there is a lot to keep track of, and not much we can do about SED approval process, but we will stay tuned on that one and hope for the best. Moving on to discussion and approval. So we need to change the June 17th board meeting date to Tuesday, June 16th. I think this has been communicated already to all the board members. We just need to ratify this change to the agenda, or are we just announcing it?
No, there's a
it's
resolution.
Yep. Any questions about this? I think everybody's aware.
I actually change the schedule won't be able to come, but you guys can.
You will be? Oh, won't be?
No, I won't be.
Okay. Is anyone else missing?
Yeah, I won't be there.
Okay.
I
It'll be done.
may not be able to go,
Okay.
but I communicated that to Dusty before when she asked.
That should
Jocelyn,
still.
can you be here?
I think I knew about two.
So that would be
That's a really
Jocelyn,
good plan.
Sarah, me, and Jen.
I'll go
Be
pick Jen
quorum.
up and bring her.
Okay. We haven't heard from Jen about this date, have we?
I may be able to, but it looks sexy at best.
Okay, okay. Well, it sounds like we still hopefully have a quorum, so we will continue with this for now. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby amends the 25-26 Board of Education meeting schedule to change the June 17th, 2026 business meeting to June 16th, 2026. May I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we are moving into the public hearing for the 26-27 adopted school budget. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Okay, great. I'll turn it over to Greg.
Okay, we're gonna go through this quickly, because we've been through this several times before. What's included in this budget from an instructional standpoint is funding for our empowered classroom, professional learning, including classroom furniture and other materials for innovative, engaging, and future-focused instruction. You're gonna be hearing from our fellows in the June board meeting about this process and you know, again, tied to innovative instructional and professional learning for our teachers. We want to pilot a new literacy and writing program. We've done a lot of work, as this board knows and this community knows, on our science of reading. But we're also starting, as we curriculum map, and this is why you curriculum map, we're starting to see some holes in some of our, you know, literacy and our writing programs. So we are working with our staff on piloting a few literacy programs that meet New York State standards, but that are also research-based and proven. So there's some funding for piloting of that. We've talked about our classroom a lot, but there also is partial funding, and we want to thank GCEF for also a really successful funding drive. They are going to support some of a new primary playground. We have $100,000 in this budget towards the playground. That playground for primary school is really beyond repair and needs to be replaced. And we have a really nice design ready to go. Our athletic scoreboards need to be replaced, so do our soccer goals. We are going to continue the wonderful programs that we have here in Garrison, and that is our environmental ed, which we really have an aggressive plan for that. We want to make sure that there's funding continuing in this budget for that. We've talked previously, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. We have a strong, robust social emotional learning programs. We want to continue those. Our band, our chorus in grades 3 through 5, and our grades 6 through 8 are remarkable. We want to continue that. This budget continues theater and yoga and e-music, supporting our out-of-classroom experiences such as field trips. Our secondary clubs and activities such as Spill of Positivity for our modified sports program. This budget funds that. The Summer School Scholars Program, which has been very successful, previously grant funded, is in the current school year budget. We want to make sure there's money for that in the 26-27 budget. We have a wonderful food service program. Despite all the hiccups, we're continuously making changes to it. It's been really highly sought after by our students. From 50 to 80% of students every day take a school lunch. We want to make sure that program has the funding needed. Our intervention systems, our clinical support, our our SPO, our safety patrol officer. There's funds in this budget for those things as well. High quality professional development, which is something Mike is really doing a great job spearheading. We need to make sure that there's funding for that. And lastly, and very importantly for our high school families, this budget supports the continuing of the tuition for 3 outstanding high schools. This is something unique to Garrison and something that is almost like a mini, having just been through this with 2 kids, this is like a mini college tour. And I'm wondering, and one day I'm going to do a research paper on if this helps students who have graduated from Garrison and gone on to college, if this process had anything to do to prepare them for it, because it's very simple. Staffing, I'm not going to go through all of it. It is available on our website. Joe will talk a little bit about that. But our class sizes are relatively the same with some changes of like classes moving up, like our bubble classes in 3rd grade and our bubble class in 1st grade. But overall, we have 13 sections, if you will, now. We're going to need the same amount of sections, next year. So all in all, it's 31.15 staff members in the current year budget. Staffing request is flat. High school enrollment, right now we're at 101 students. We are projecting 96 students next year. Doesn't mean students they can move into the district and make that 96 higher, which may or may not happen, has happened this year. But it's relatively the same. I'm going to kick it over to Joe to talk about our tax rate and what that looks like compared to other districts in the region.
So the good news for the residents of Garrison, the taxes here are very low. A lot of people may not realize how low they are, but most of the taxpayers in the Lower Hudson region pay almost double what per full value of property that Garrison residents pay. So we're tied with the lowest with Canico, and then Curious Joel over in Rockland County is also pretty low, and Weebatuck, which is sometimes listed as northeast up in Dutchess County, is also on the low side, and then Haverstraw is the highest in the region at $25 per 1,000 of full value. This is our tax cap calculation. The school district is doing a budget that is at the cap. And what that means for a median household in terms of the full value is in the town of Phelpstown, that's a $300,000 assessment, which is a full value of $978,000 at the 30% equalization rate. That equates to an estimated increase per year of $178 or $14.83 a month. And in Putnam Valley, the full value is a bit lower at $543,000 for a median household, and that would be $99 for the year or $8 for a month. We're not seeking override. This is the revenue that balances the expenses. There's not a lot of changes year over year. We're recognizing some more interest, slight increase in formula aid, increase in BOCES aid, which is due to the use of more services. And we're using the same amount of debt service reserve, $100,000. And then as we get closer to the end of the school year, we may work with the finance committee and make recommendations at increasing or changing the allocation of some of the reserves that we have. So we are planning to use up to $1.78 million of undesignated fund balance to appropriate for next year. It's an estimate, so we could use 1.5 million, which would leave us with 3.8 million of year-end general fund balance at the end of 26, 27 if we had to use it all. This is the budget in its major components. It's a 5.9% increase in spending year over year. And one of the things that's necessary in a budget hearing is to go over the budget in 3 components. So you have program, which is your instructional program. That is the largest component of the budget of $11,271,000. And then you have the capital component, which is the debt service and the operations and maintenance of the facilities, and then the overall administration. And that administration represents 12.6% of the overall budget. So capital projects, we are planning an energy performance contract for next year because of the issues that we're having with the HVAC system, and we can't wait for that to be settled legally, so we're probably have to get that started in next year's budget. It includes a number of items to basically increase the energy efficiency of the building, so tighten up the building with insulation, and some improvements that will increase the heating capacity in the wintertime and the comfort for the students. And then, as we've talked about a lot, the whole forest classroom project, including all of the work for the parking area, the compostable toilet, the ADA accessible pathway, and the structure and all the outdoor seating. That's all included in the budget, so that this would allow the district to do all of this without financing any of it. And this is just a infographic, which is also included on our website. It talks about what the forest classroom is going to be all about, and it's really it allows you the space and the time to do the in-depth learning that really is kind of the cornerstone to the environmental education program that we're talking about. So, based upon what the changes as we went through developing the budget, we originally had the painting project of the 1908 facade was included as a part of our capital budget for next year, but we're going to be able to do that out of funds from the current budget, and it's not considered a capital project, it's really considered maintenance. So with that removal, we're essentially able to do the outdoor classroom in its entirety and make the first payment on an energy performance contract, all in the amount of capital that we had allocated to last year's budget to this year. So we're going to use 1.78 million of undesignated fund balance. And if the budget is defeated on May 19th, the board could make a new budget and then have another vote, or they can adopt a contingent budget. Contingent budget requires 0% tax increase, and we would have to cut at least $264,000. It would have staffing cuts that would affect program and administration, and all the equipment except stuff that's required for the maintenance of the building and the property, as well as special education would equipment. Anything except for those 2 items will be cut, and that would be the new playground, the empowered classroom initiatives, the soccer goals, and the new scoreboard. Some of the staff's development and training would have to be cut, and then we wouldn't be able to allow outside organizations to use our facilities, and the summer scholar programs would be eliminated, as well as the SBL program. So there's several items on the ballot. One is the budget amount, and then we have two terms of instruction contracts, which will allow a known tuition and contract for our students to attend. We got Haldane and also Highland Falls. So we got the hearing tonight. The newsletter is going to be mailed out on the 11th. And then on May 19th, from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m., the vote will be here. If you're not registered, contact Dusty. She can register for any time during the day, up until 5 days before the vote. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
I have one question. Thank you for putting together this fresh off the press appropriation status report. This is really fun. I'm just looking at where the big increases are. In terms of the state retirement, there seems to be a jump there. Is there a reason for the jump in the state retirement? That's one that just kind of caught me off guard. The rest I can kind of like add up and figure out. I'm looking at the bottom of the first page.
Yeah, there are some contingent funds that are in there.
Okay. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions from board members? We've gone through this a number of times. Just for any members of the public who are tuning in before our budget vote on May 19th, just to reiterate what you've already said, Joe, we are not asking for a budget override. We are at the tax cap. We are maintaining all current staffing levels. We are maintaining all programming, educational programming. We are expecting essentially flat, but have a little bit of extra space for some additions to enrollment. And we are making some, I'd say, modest but significant investments in some major initiatives that are central to things like the environmental, 5-year environmental plan that we heard earlier, the outdoor classroom obviously, but also the empowered classroom professional development program that Dr. Stoll has been running this past year. So there's a lot in this budget. I think we've been able to do a lot while also maintaining a pretty modest tax hit to the district. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We do have, so we will go to any questions from the public. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. That is it. Anything else you want to say, Greg, before we close?
Just, Dan, I think you summarized it very well. The only addition I would make is we are, in terms of capital projects, we are spending the same amount on capital projects as we did this year. So this is very planned. This is very purposeful. We're not asking for more money on capital projects, even though, stairs and retaining walls and roofs make a lot of sense to all of us. Many of us own homes. Now we're able to not just do some of the things that we need, like Joe talked about in terms of the energy performance, but we're also starting to do capital that directly impacts teaching and learning at the same levels that we do in the current school year.
Right. And to add on to that, we're also, I think, we've been deliberate over the past couple of years to make sure that we are doing this out of our revenue and not taking on debt for these projects.
Correct. Sorry, I meant to ask a question.
Yep.
On the playground, what was the timeline for that if and when we get the budget passed?
So if the budget passes, we can basically make commitments to a vendor that basically says that as soon as we're able to print POs on July 1, you're going to get a PO. So if the design that we have is approved, which we're going to circulate it around to everyone that was involved with it. If that is approved, we could order it, and then they would be able to install it in the fall if we're willing to
allow it to occur during the school day.
It's a good point to make for the community. It's not a capital project. It doesn't require SED approval.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a much quicker process. It's just a purchase of equipment, replacing existing equipment.
Yeah.
And that's why if we go into a contingency, it's equipment line, it goes out, it gets cut.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we will close the budget workshop and move to our first public comment section. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns. In accordance with policy 1510 of the Garrison Union Free School District, any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during board meetings are asked to place their name and town of residence on the sign-in sheet. Commenters will be invited to the podium to address the board. Ms. Johnson.
The process takes 3 minutes.
Take as much time as you want.
All right, and I'm gonna go
Up to 3 minutes.
Up to 3 minutes, yes. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Laura Johnson. I'm here tonight as the president of the Garrison Teachers Association, which also represents our school-related personnel, sorry. I would like to thank Dr. Stoll, his team, and the Board of Education for productive and successful negotiations of both contracts this year. The work we do in negotiations benefits not only the district and the staff, but most importantly our students. Thank you again for supporting the wonderful education programs we have here at Garrison that our teachers and staff deliver, along with our facilities and office staff teams that keep things moving. On another note, I would like to express our members' support for the outdoor classroom. The outdoor classroom is an innovative project that will help us increase our use of the school forest in many ways that we've not been able to do before, and I've been here a long time, so I've been there a lot. The project makes the forest more accessible for all our students and will ensure that all the students have the opportunity to experience the learning that we do in the forest. The addition of the compostable, I'm saying that right, bathrooms will allow us to spend more time in the forest while engaging students in the various instructional experiences. This project honors our dedication to environmental education and brings us towards a future that the gift our school has been given can be further utilized in a thoughtful and environmentally sensitive way. This is truly a resource that will positively impact generations of students to come here in Garrison. On behalf of the GTA, the students of Garrison School, I would like to end by asking the public to please come out and support the school budget on May 19th. A yes vote is a vote for our excellent programming for the children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? All right, we will close public comment and move on to acceptance of the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby accept the minutes of the regular business meeting of April 21st, 2026 as presented. May I have a motion?
So, second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Approval of CSE's CPSE recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations and student placements. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Personnel items. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion? Second. Greg, do you want to speak to either of these?
Yeah, I'll speak to both of them quickly. First, we want to welcome back Chloe McDonald as a per diem sub. We'll make the recommendation for next year. She's done a remarkable job with us. She's in process of becoming a certified teacher herself. The other person that loves working with us so much is our theater teacher. She's not here full time. We get her services through Arts and Education through BOCES. And she asked, on my days that I'm not working here as a theater teacher, can I come in and sub? So it just tells you how connected she is and how much we feel connected with her. So I want to welcome her as a per diem sub as well.
Great.
And lastly, I need to thank the Callow family. We only had 2 election workers approved. We were trying to get 3. We couldn't get 3. Freddie Callow Jr., who has worked the election for us in the past, has offered because we were a little bit in a pinch. And so we're making this recommendation before the budget vote. And we want to thank Freddie for volunteering to come in and support this community. I know it means so much to Dusty and so much to her family. And I want to thank Freddie for coming in and helping us out when we were a little short-staffed for the election.
What can't the Callow family do? Cooking,
Not much.
woodworking, board clerking,
Interior
election
design.
volunteering. It's amazing. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to new business. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the new business items as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Just quickly, I'll turn it over to you, Greg. Echoing what Lauren said, I just want to thank the Teachers Association as well as the SRP for, I think a very productive and good negotiation process for the current agreement that we should be ratifying tonight. And it's fitting on Teacher Appreciation Week, I think. It's a small token, obviously, to our appreciation for everything that the teachers do, just to have had such a good process, and we greatly appreciate the productive sessions that we were able to have. So thank you very much. Greg, anything else you want to say?
Dan, you said it really, really well. I just want to give a highlight. Usually when you go into negotiations, it's not always an easy thing to do and go into negotiations, but both from the district standpoint and both from the teacher standpoint, we went into this with a shared vision of what we want to accomplish for our school and a great relationship. So that made negotiations much easier. So I want to thank SRP and the GTA for coming in and understanding that there's a give and take in negotiations. And so thank you for that. I think it was very productive. I think we made great gains, from an academic standpoint, from what we want to do in professional learning and what the teachers are willing to do. And at the same time, I want to let the community know we did this within the confines of budget restrictions. We're not there are a lot of school districts that are in the area or maybe a little south that have a lot more resources than we do. But I think we came away with an agreement on both sides that was fair to both sides, moved the needle forward for our teachers and our SRPs, moved the needle forward instructionally for our students, at the same time fiscally responsible to our community that we can afford this in years to come. And lastly, I want to thank this Board of Education. The Board of Education is, maybe not from the day-to-day sessions, are really responsible to kind of oversee this process. And without their support and having a vision of what we wanted to accomplish instructionally for our students, this negotiations wouldn't have been as smooth. So I want to give this Board of Education, who are always student-centered, who are always student-first, thank you on behalf of our negotiating team, and I think on behalf of our students and our families. Thank you for your support, and we're really excited to start next year and see what we can do.
Great, thank you very much, Greg. Any other questions or comments on any of the new business items as presented?
I'll just jump in and add that we do have the West budget and Board of Directors on here. If you have any questions, let me know. I was involved with putting that together as our rep there and on the Board of Directors. It's a very minimal increase for Garrison given our size, and I think I find it very valuable to be a part of it and hear what other districts are doing, and I think it's valuable to be a part of a larger conversation about what is happening in this area. And they serve us well, because you have that lovely lots of facts and figures and things like that they put together. I'm responsible for fun things like this. Anyway, if you have any questions.
Thanks, Sarah. Questions or comments? All, I think we have a motion already, right? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we have our second public comment section. Not gonna read it again, but public comment is once again open. We will close it now. And move on to board member comment with Jocelyn.
Thanks. I'll just say that I appreciate the teachers and Nurse Melissa, and all the budget work, all the environmental ed work, all the West Pub, whatever, but I can never remember the names of the acronyms, but all
You
the
just
work-
say it really fast.
all the
and
things that
nobody
you
knows.
do
It's
on
okay.
behalf of the district for that, so thanks to everybody.
Jocelyn. Eric?
Yeah, ditto, and again, just to reiterate appreciation and gratitude for the work that Donald and Ms. Bucola did on the 5-year environmental plan. I think environmental education can seem like a somewhat nebulous concept, and to bring that from that level to something that's really tangible and focused for the entire school community, but the community at large, and that we can become a paradigm for districts near and far is just was really exciting. So great job.
Thanks, Eric. Nothing further from me. Pete? Kent?
No, just reiterating what everyone else said, and it's just very impressive to see the curriculum come together in support of the investment that we want to make in the forest. And I hope that folks get to see kind of that we're not just building a capital project, we're not just putting a construction project out there, but we're actually filling it with a lot of thought, a lot of planning, and it really makes all the work that goes into all of this feel really good.
Great. Thanks, Ken. And Sarah?
Just thanks again to Mike and Krista for allowing me to be a part of that committee and that process. And I encourage everyone in the community, if you've ever thought about joining one of these committees when the call goes out in the fall for whatever comes next, please know that whatever your experience is and whatever you bring to the table, it is welcome here, and it is enough to be a participant in those meetings. The starting point is where you are, so come on in. All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. We do have executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby enters into executive session for the purpose of reviewing the terms and conditions of employment, an employment agreement for a particular employee. May I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We will adjourn the meeting without any further action taken.
I feel like that's
Yeah.